This is the Johnny Cleveland Podcast, all things Cleveland sports, with your host, John Suchan. Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Johnny Cleveland Podcast. It is a Tuesday evening, about 9:30. Was going to come on a little bit earlier, but a lot has happened over the last 45 minutes, and so I wanted to make sure I had all the information. And boy, what a day! Todd Monken not interviewed. He got the job. He had his press conference. Introduced as the new Cleveland Browns head coach. So we'll talk about that. Watching right now the NFL Pro Bowl with, that's right, Shedeur Sanders, our guy, and a lot of other folks playing some flag football. Currently, the score is 44-36 in the first half of this entertaining, I would say. I know many of you think that the Pro Bowl is silly right now and all of this, but this has been pretty entertaining. The guys are having fun, and it's a lot better to watch this, I think, than watching some of these things that we've watched in the past with these Pro Bowls. It's being played in an indoor facility at a convention center out there in San Francisco. This is kind of the lead now up to the Super Bowl on Sunday between Seattle and New England. And so they have this Pro Bowl game now. And, hey, it works. Cool to see Shedeur out there. He's throwing a couple touchdown passes. And Joe Burrow's throwing some good passes. Bowles, one of the offensive linemen, getting all these touchdown catches. And it's just been a lot of fun. Joe Flacco's there. And everybody's just having a good time. Steve Young, the old coach or quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers. He's one of the coaches, and Jerry Rice, the great wide receiver of the 49ers, he's the other coach. So if you want to turn on ESPN here while you're listening to our podcast or watching our podcast here right now live here on Facebook, YouTube, and the X, please do. You can also listen to us later on Apple and Spotify. We are part of the Fanatical Elves Network, part of Fans First. We appreciate you tuning in. And again, this is the Johnny Cleveland Podcast, and I'm your host, John Suchan. So today, the big news, a couple other things that happened just in the last 45 minutes, a little bit longer than that. In basketball news, we'll come back to this in a minute, but James Harden has just been traded to, that's right, the Cleveland Cavaliers for Darius Garland and a second-round pick. James Harden, 17-year career. He had been playing for the LA Clippers. He just came over to the Cleveland Cavaliers tonight in a trade. Harden's been averaging 25 points a game. We'll talk about him and the impact that he could have here on the Cleveland Cavaliers as they consider themselves, a serious contender for the NBA championship. They've started to get a little hot. Darius Garland has been injured again this year. He's missed 30 plus games, and they agreed to this trade tonight. We'll talk about it again momentarily. So the other big news today, if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, is that Todd Monken was introduced as the new Browns head coach. Todd Monken. Happy birthday early to Todd Monken, who I believe his birthday is tomorrow. He will be turning 60. Yes, 60. The Browns hired a 60-year-old guy, Todd Monken. He reminds me a lot of various characters in my past, old bosses and different things. And he's got that rough, raspy voice. He's definitely a football coach, folks. He is definitely the polar opposite of Kevin Stefanski. And the comments that he made throughout the press conference would support that. He's going out there to freaking play some football and kick ass is kind of how he described what he wants his Browns football team to be like. So we'll see what happens, but he answered questions, talked a lot about a lot of variety of topics, including Shador Sanders. We'll start with that. He was asked about Shador and if Shador would be his number one quarterback going into the season. He did not say that. He basically, the coach said that everybody would have an opportunity, which if you're a new coach of a team, that's typically what you should be saying. So that's how he answered that question. There were some questions pertaining to Jim Schwartz that were very interesting. And Monken described the fact that he would defend, his defense when he was on the offensive side of the ball with the Baltimore Ratbirds, where he just came over from for the last couple of years, where he was the offensive coordinator. He said that his offense would be preparing to chip Myles Garrett, the Browns' great defensive lineman or edge rusher, and they weren't chipping Jim Schwartz. I don't believe that Jim Schwartz is coming back. I know that's been a conversation piece for the last week since he's didn't get the job. But the fact and the way that Todd Monken talked about Jim Schwartz today would seem to me that he indicated that he had talked to Jim Schwartz himself personally. And I think that if Jim Schwartz really intended on coming back to this team, he would have been let it be known publicly in the last day or two, considering that Todd Monken was going to have this press conference and all of that did not happen. And so the way that Todd Monken discussed Jim Schwartz was in a lot of respect for Schwartz, but you just get the sense that it's just not going to work out. I mean, Jim Schwartz wanted the job. He thought he was going to be the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns, and he's not. He thought that, his defense and the players that really liked him on the defense that would carry him into this role of being the new Browns coach, but it didn't happen. And he indicated right after the decision that he was out of here. And I think he is out of here. Now, I know some people say, well, he's under contract, and some people say, hold the phone, push the brakes here, pump the brakes. But the feeling you got listening to that presser and listening to Andrew Berry and the owner, Jimmy Haslam, also, he's not coming back. So let's say we move forward, right? I mean, we'll find out more in the coming days. Monken was asked about filling out his coaching staff, and he would take his time and find the right guys. He mentioned some guy that's now the defensive coordinator somewhere, and he said that they didn't get him when they tried to recruit him back in the day when he was coaching, when Monken was the head coach at Southern Miss. And, stories like that. And, listen, the guy, Monken, is a 60-year-old guy. Now, I'm not 60 quite yet, but I'm getting close to 60. And I've worked my entire career. Monken has worked his entire career as a football coach, 37, 38 years. So that in itself, I mean, this guy, he knows, he's been around the block. He's been in the business. So I give this guy a lot of credit. I think that he's going to help this team in ways that probably Kevin Stefanski just couldn't. A lot of people will go to this idea of, again, we've already addressed it, that, Monken's more the football guy. He likes to swear, cuss, and, he just does it all the time, and I think that he's also, the other thing that came out today was these commentary on social media today about players that were interviewed by the Browns, and the Browns players indicating that they wanted somebody who was more accountable. I think Kevin Stefanski was a good coach, and we've already talked about this before on the show. I think Stefanski had opportunities, but again, it just ran out of steam. He was here for 6 years. If he was going to change and make this team better, he would have had the time. He had the time, and he didn't do anything with that time. Some people will complain and argue, well, there were injuries, and there was this, and there was the Deshaun Watson trade. I get all that, but those are all excuses. Those are excuses, and his time was just over. The Browns fans were fed up with it. I think Stefanski was kind of done. He knew his time was coming, and that's the situation. Now he's going to Atlanta. Good luck to that. or to him and to that organization. I hope they do well. I don't think they're going to do much better than they did here in Cleveland, but we'll find out. He has hired his entire former staff in Cleveland, so maybe he can run it back with that group and do some better things. I mean, we did have success here in Cleveland, and in part due to Kevin Stefanski and his knowledge and his strengths as a coach. But we'll find out. We'll find out how it all pans out. I think Todd Monken, the age, the old time football coach, it'll be an interesting thing to see how that plays out here in Cleveland. I think right now, obviously, we're in the honeymoon period. We're listening and taking it all in. And when the announcement was made initially that Todd Monken was the coach, I don't think many of you were very happy about that. I know I wasn't. I think I was a little bit in shock. But since then, we've done our research, looked into Todd Monken, listened to Todd Monken, and if you're a football fan, most of us really like that aggressiveness, and it is a far cry from Stefanski, who would hardly give you a word, or he'd just say the same things, and it would just, you just didn't get a lot. He wouldn't share a lot, which is, some people respect that a lot more. I like people who are, it was interesting in this presser. He talked about, Munkin mentioned the idea of honesty. He talked about how, we want people to be honest, but when you are actually honest with someone, or you're given an honest opinion, sometimes that criticism is hard to take. So it's interesting because that's kind of where he's at. Like, that's the kind of guy that he is. He's going to lay it out, man. He's going to, I mean, if a player isn't doing what he's just supposed to be doing, or a coach isn't doing what Munkin thinks that he should be doing, that player, that coach, they're going to know. In the moment, those things are very crass and can be hard to take, especially in any type of work any kind of line of work you're in. Football players, coaches, whatever you're doing. So we'll see how it all pans out. I mean, somebody like Myles Garrett, who's a philosopher and he's been with the Browns forever. I can foresee Myles Garrett saying a few things in the public eye because Todd Monken might, say a few things about his player and vice versa. Myles Garrett, I could see saying some things about Todd Monken that aren't very favorable to Todd Monken, and I could see the two of them butting heads quite a bit. So we'll see how it all plays out. But those are the sorts of stories that I think we all could eventually see. I don't think it's necessarily bad, but this guy, Todd Monken, has not been a coach at the NFL level all these years. He did mention that he talked to NFL coaches when he was still at Georgia about coming back to the NFL, and that his goal was to become an NFL coach. And he talked to even coaches like a Kevin Stefanski and got his opinion. And all these coaches, and we've talked about this on this platform, on this podcasting network, about there are 32 of these jobs. So some of you who have been very critical and complaining constantly about the Browns being dysfunctional and how it was just stupid the way that they went about hiring this guy. I honestly just don't understand your logic of thinking. It doesn't make any sense. There are 32 of these jobs in the NFL, only 32. It's one of the premier jobs you can have in all of sports, to be a head coach at the NFL level. So Todd Monken understands that. I don't know if it's more of a younger perspective on things when you guys who are listening to this show or watch this show or watch other podcasts, or you have your own podcast and you always start talking about, you guys who are in your 20s and early 30s. I don't think you guys understand sometimes, because I don't think you've experienced life yet. So you experience life a little bit longer. Take it from somebody who's a little bit older than you, and those people like a Todd Monken who have been around the block, like I said before, they understand things. And so that's why I'm more excited to see what Todd Monken can do with this Cleveland Browns team, because you had a pretty good coach in Kevin Stefanski here, but that like I said, ran out of steam. Kevin Stefanski's also in his 30s, late 30s, going into his 40s now. So, he's been around the block a little bit, but he was still a little bit too young. Monken, Monken has that experience. So I'm anxious to see what this all does with this team. And it might not play out. It may not, it may not, might, it may not jive with what's going on with the players in the locker room and how they um, get along. But, you see all these things, earlier in the week when Shedeur Sanders came in the building, the video. I mean, I know the Browns are trying to really promote it, but doggone it, man. You see Shedeur coming into that room with Todd Monken, his new coach, and that embrace, the playful bantering back and forth, the boxing match, all that stuff, and Monken saying, I really wanted you wanted to draft you when I was helping coach in Baltimore. That's all legit, man. That's where I get, and then you watch things like tonight on this Pro Bowl, and I know I'm, skipping back to this Pro Bowl, but then you see, just you listen to some of these players, and like Shedeur Sanders, he's a confident kid. Obviously, his dad's prime time, but you can get a good sense when you watch interactions like that. Like these two people, even though Shedeur is, a young kid, and Todd Monken is going to be 6 years old, that there is a connection there. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Todd Monken does. And yes, I definitely think that Shedeur is going to have to work for that number one spot, but I certainly believe that Shedeur has a crap load of confidence it's going to really push him to be that number one, that he will have earned that number one spot by the time training camp is over and we enter week 1 of next season. I really think that that's just a matter of time. I think that Shedeur is, you can't say he's the number one quarterback. And I know some of you will start talking about, well, don't forget about Deshaun Watson. Listen, Deshaun Watson is done. Like, if you want to talk about it, fine, but don't talk to me about it. I don't believe that that's really a factor. Now, what the Browns do during the draft and maybe, during this offseason with free agency, because remember, free agency comes before the draft. We'll see what the Browns end up doing. They do have Dillon Gabriel on the roster too, but since Kevin Stefanski is in love with Dillon Gabriel, maybe he'll take him off our hands and the Browns will send him to Atlanta. We'll see what happens with that, but there are lots of things going on right now. But it was an impressive press conference by Todd Monken. I got to watch it later. I saw clips of it earlier in the day, and then I watched the entire presser afterwards. And Todd Monken is a very, he's not an elder, but he understands the game. He understands the position that he is in right now. And I think that that's all going to be a big advantage in him getting a really good coaching staff, which he's already, bringing in his offensive line coach. He's got offensive coordinator who was running. I mean, all these guys from Baltimore are coming over. They're not going to go play for John Harbaugh or Jim Harbaugh. They're coming to go play to work under Todd Monken. So I think Todd Monken has developed many really good relationships with coaches and players. So we'll see. Excited to see what happens. Obviously we're in this honeymoon stage. It's, the games don't start until September, so we can continue to talk about this till the cows go home. The cows come home. So, all right, we're watching. Let's see, Pro Bowl again. Jamar Chase, who I just despise, just scored another touchdown for the AFC. So I don't know who threw that. Let's see. Oh, Joe Flacco threw the another touchdown. Joe Flacco, the 40-year-old, 41 years old. Crazy stuff. Let's pause here for a quick commercial break. This is the Johnny Cleveland podcast. Hey, thanks for tuning in here to the Johnny Cleveland podcast. Thanks for watching us on Facebook, YouTube, and the X. Thanks to Steve Hemrich, who is giving us the opportunity publish our show here on his X page. So thank you, Steve. We also have the Fanatical Elves show coming up later this week with Steve Gill and Sam Britton. We also have the Browns Blitz with Rod Bloom. Tomorrow afternoon, there's a Gleam. Steve Hemmerich's show with his buddy John comes on at noon tomorrow. So tune into that show. Great program there. I'm going to be coming back with my revamped Stirring the Pot show, Stirring the Pot in Cleveland. Done that show with Lou Marconi over the last year and a half or so, switching that up, and going to be doing that show on my own coming up on Mondays. So tune in for that. We've got some other shows coming up as well. So lots of programming here on the Fanatical Elves Network. We appreciate you tuning in, listening to us, spreading the love, telling everybody that we are a Cleveland Browns podcast. Also, a shout out to Hemisphere Coffee Roasters. They shake the hand of the farmer. Great coffee group up there in Mechanicsburg, Ohio. Check out the X page. We've got a link there on our X page for the Fanatical Elves. You can click on that, and we get back 15%. All right. The big story this evening was the big trade of Darius Garland. I mean, I'm just going to see if there's anything new in the last 15, 20 minutes that I've been away. But Darius Garland, the longtime Cleveland Cavalier, was traded tonight for James Harden. That James Harden, the guy that his beard goes all the way down to the basketball court. James Harden's been in the league for 17 seasons. He's 36 years old. He was drafted out of Arizona State, third by the Oklahoma City Thunder back in the day, way back in the day. He used to play with Kevin Durant. He's moved around quite a bit over the years. He ended up being with, he initially went to Oklahoma, and then he was with Houston for a long time. The Houston, why am I drawing a blank here? The Houston Rockets. He's moved around. He was in Philadelphia. In the last several years, he's been back with the LA Clippers. He averages 25 points this season. For his career, I think he's averaging 25 points as well. 7 rebounds. No, more than, 7 rebounds, but 7 assists. A lot of people complain that, he doesn't do enough in playoffs. He kind of disappears. Statistically, and what they are as players, James Harden is a better player than Darius Garland. I know some of you, it is hard to Darius Garland really was with this team. He's been with this team since the beginning almost of this whole new cycle of the Cleveland Cavaliers. And so it's just sad. I'm sad to see Darius Garland leave. He's had a number of injuries recently that have really sidetracked him. And again, it's too bad. But he was a big part of this push and where the Cleveland Cavaliers are. The Cavaliers have talked about this core 4, including Jarrett Allen, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and Donovan Mitchell. And that's spattering of other guys that come in. But that core is broken up now because now Darius Garland is in LA and James Harden is with the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers are playing, they're getting they're really getting better right now as the season continues. I've told people for months now not to panic if you're a Cavalier fan, and now they've just traded for one of the best players in all of the NBA. So they can't make things worse. I know some people are concerned about James Harden's attitude and whatnot. James Harden had a no trade clause, so he agreed to this trade, and we can only hope the 36-year-old Harden will perform and do what he can to make this Cavaliers team even better with someone like a Donovan Mitchell. I mean, I think it's a good team. It's a good group. Donovan Mitchell obviously is fantastic. And then you think about other things that could potentially happen. I know that Gianna, I forget the guy, or the big center from Milwaukee. I think that's still out there as a possibility. My God, if the Cavs got him somehow, That would be wow. So we'll see how that would end up. But then, we last week we had this whole thing with LeBron came through town with the Lakers. Is LeBron going to come back to Cleveland? I certainly think he's going to. I think that LeBron is going to end his career in Cleveland. If it's the end of this season that he still comes back before the trade clause, who knows? Maybe. More than likely, I could see him coming back next year here in Cleveland and playing his last season. He's 41, going to be 42 years old. I mean, he's played. We know how much LeBron has played and what he's meant to the NBA. But for today, the Cavs make this huge, huge deal. I'm trying to pull up my message in here, but I don't know if the internet is broken or it's not. Oh, there we go. I'm not seeing much change. Let's see here. Throwing touchdown passes. Stores continue. What did he do this time? He threw another one. Oh, there you go. So Shadur's doing pretty good, considering that he's out there on this field with all these all pros, Pro Bowlers too. I think it's a good thing for him to get that exposure. Lots of things going on, good things here in Cleveland. You've got, think about it. I mean, you've got Shadur now starting to get some more exposure. You got Todd Monken in the building now, who's going to give him an opportunity. Then you got the Cavaliers over here who are starting to kind of mesh. Now they just made a big splash for James Harden. I'm telling you, Cleveland, you are the center of the sports universe. I think we've said this for years now, and then it's so true. Everybody, somehow or another, things somehow get tied back to Cleveland sports teams. So fun times. Pickens just caught a nice touchdown pass for the NFC teams. Good game, fun game. They're scoring lots of points. If you like to see people running up and down a shorter football field, it's really kind of interesting. This game is being played indoors in a convention center in San Francisco. So interesting venue. Trying to think if there's anything else that I wanted to touch base with. Not really, other than I did want to let people know that I have recently started writing again for Dog Pound Daily, which is a group of fans from Fansided. So if you're familiar with that, fansided.com, they have a plethora of websites, many sports websites, and Dog Pound Daily is the Cleveland Browns website, and I've written for them dating back to like 2019 and had a lot of fun writing for them for 3 or 4 years. I took a couple of years off and I've rejoined the group in the last week, so I'm excited to write more. They have a great group right now of writers, young writers, great writers. Man, there's some really good writing going on in this group, so I'm excited to be back and writing for them. So please follow me there on the Dog Pound Daily, DPD. Also, I write for Northeast Ohio Sports Insiders, so I really appreciate them as well. I get to write with Natalie Turk and Munch Bishop, and all these guys who are really great writers themselves. Bill, him also there with Northeast Ohio Sports Insiders. So, have had a really good opportunity to write some good stuff over the years, and being given this opportunity and getting to do some things with those opportunities has really been fun. So I'll continue to write and continue to try to create some entertaining pieces for you to watch and read in the near future. So again, thanks again for tuning in to the Johnny Cleveland podcast, part of the Fanatical Elves Network, part of Fans First Sports. We'll see you next time. Everybody take care and remember, that's right. Remember to, right? Keep smiling. Take care. Maybe. See ya.